Welcome back to Lifestyle with Kim Litvak. Today, because it is apple season, which, let's be real, summer will always hold my heart, but I love fall, all the good coziness that comes with it. So today we are talking apples. So the first thing that we're going to make today is mini caramel apple streusel cream cheese cups. So we are gonna make them in the muffin tin. We're gonna line them with the liners, and then I sprayed them with a little bit of non-stick spray for ease. We're gonna make a graham cracker crust, which I've already put the graham crackers in there, so I'm gonna run that now. And it is in stages, but it's very easy and very, very yummy. So again, the first thing that we're gonna do is we are going to pulverize these graham crackers. We have 2 whole sleeves that I broke into pieces just to help it kind of break up a bit more and get crumbly a little easier. 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar and butter. Little known fact, the sugar isn't there to add sweetness because obviously they're graham crackers, they're already kind of sweet. Because when sugar hardens, it actually helps to keep your dough together a little bit more. So it's gonna prevent the dough from being kind of crumbly. It's gonna hold it together a little bit more along with the butter. So it is necessary. You could always omit it, but it was not gonna be as stable as what it's gonna be now. So we're gonna go ahead and pulverize these. Sounds pretty good. Okay, now we're gonna add the sugar. And then as this mixes, we'll slowly add the butter in. Now I believe this is a stick of butter along with the 3 tablespoons of sugar. Okay, now that we have this all mixed up, I went ahead and took the blade out because I mean, that could be a little dangerous and we don't want blood, sweat, and tears in our recipes. So I'm just gonna take about a tablespoon, give or take. Doesn't have to be exact by any stretch. And we're just gonna kind of put that in there and then press it down a little bit just to form a crust. Keep it doing that. Now I go through and I just add about the tablespoon. And then when I have everything that's filled, then I can go back and make sure that there's plenty of crust because we want to make sure that every layer of this is properly kind of represented, so to speak. Because I mean, come on, who doesn't love a graham cracker crust? They're freaking amazing, which is why we're doing it. And this one has lots of butter, which we know. Come on, that makes everything better. Okay, now we have a preheated oven at 325, and we're gonna wanna bake these for 10 minutes. So the next step is going to be your apples. You're gonna wanna par bake these just a little bit. So I put this on a kind of a medium-low heat. So we're just gonna add our apples and just a smidge of cinnamon. And we're gonna we'll just let those go. Now we wanna work on the filling, which is really easy. I just have 2 8-ounce bricks of cream cheese here, and we'll add those. And these are softened, so they've been sitting out for a little while, just to make it easier to incorporate everything, instead of having to work through, you know, chilled something. It's less easy to mix. Now to this, before we even start mixing it, we're gonna add 2/3 of a cup of sugar, just regular sugar, and we're gonna cream that together. So we're just gonna let that go for a couple minutes. Doesn't need any help from me while it works a little bit. So now that it's pretty good cream together, we're gonna add 1 egg at a time. So we've got the egg incorporated. We do just wanna kind of make sure that everything is getting mixed together well. Now to this, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of sour cream, which is delightful in this because it helps make this not so sweet, which is just a really nice contrast with that little bit of tang that you're adding. And about a teaspoon of vanilla. I don't really like measure this because I always want to add more vanilla than it calls for because vanilla is awesome. So just for good measure, we'll add 2. If you could smell that homemade vanilla, it's ridiculous. So we'll just keep blending this together. That is the filling right there. So as soon as our graham cracker crumbs come out, then we'll fill them with this wonderful cheesecake mixture. I really wish that we could find a way to make smell-o-vision. These apples smell ridiculous. Now these are farm fresh apples. I did pick them this morning. These are Honeycrisp. You could easily use like Granny Smith or what have you, but Honeycrisp are just amazing. Ooh. Sounds like our crust is ready. You can just smell the vanilla in here. It smells so good. Now while we continue to par cook the apples, I am gonna add just a smidge of lemon juice. Doesn't take much, not at all. And really these apples didn't have a chance to discolor or anything, but the lemon juice again just adds a brightness because of the lemon juice. That little bit of tartness kind of wakes your apples up. So while that's working, we'll go ahead and get started on our streusel. And then when the apples are good and par cooked, we can fill these and we'll have the streusel ready to go, so that assembly is a breeze because everything is just kind of ready to go. So now for the streusel is really, really easy. We're gonna add a 1/2 cup of just regular all-purpose. I use unbleached flour, but you can just use regular if that works for you. We have a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Put that right on in. 1/4 cup, and I put maybe about a teaspoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon is like vanilla. I don't really measure it either because it's just amazing. So we'll just put that on in. Now these are quick oats that I'm using today, but you could use regular oats. It only cooks for 25 minutes, so it might not get cooked all the way through. And then we're gonna just slice up some butter. We're only gonna use about 1/2 of this. I know, shocking, right? You come to Litvak Kitchen and I only use 1/2 of a stick of butter. Something is wrong with this picture. Now, if you don't wanna use your hands, perfectly fine, no judgment on my part. You could use 2 forks or a fork and a knife to help you cut the butter in. But I just think this goes so much easier. Or you could use one of those handy cutters, which I do actually own, but we really don't get along very well. So I just continue using my hands. You do want the big, like, clumps of streusel, because those will be so tasty when you go to cook this. That is pretty well mixed. I am going to go wash up, and then I'll check on the apples. We are gonna call the apples ready. And now it really is just about assembly. We have our toasted graham cracker crust. Now we're just gonna add our cream cheese mixture. I do have a little ladle here, which is kind of perfect size for these. We'll just ladle in some of that right on top. You don't wanna overfill them because you are gonna be putting apple and then streusel on top, but you're gonna see it's gonna be very full. just gonna take a little bit of the apple and we're gonna put them right on top. Oh, the streusel layer, it already smells so good. I know it's not even cooked yet, but you'll just take little handfuls. This part will get a little messy, but it's worth it. And you'll just put a little bit because you want to make sure you have plenty for everything. You can always add more if need be, which is what we did with the apples too. We went back and added some more apples where it was a little light. But we want to make sure that everything gets a little bit at least. Okay, and now we are gonna put these in the same preheated 325-degree oven for 25 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted in the middle comes out clean so you don't have raw cheesecake in the middle, but it's gonna be so good. So I can tell that these are done. The whole house smells like apple pie. Smells so ridiculous. Oh. I mean, seriously, just check out those. And we'll just put these over here and cool while we work on our entree. So don't go anywhere because it is a very yummy pork tenderloin. Of course, it's gonna introduce apples, so it's gonna be so good. Our mini caramel apple streusel cheesecake cups have come out of the oven, and they smell. Now they have cooled in the tray for about 30 minutes or so, and you will want to refrigerate them for several hours. But I don't have that kind of time right now, so we're just gonna try one. And I think I want this one. It seems like it has a lot of streusel on it, and it makes it so easy that it's in the little paper lined cup, which would be great for parties, get-togethers, what have you. But yeah, you can tell that's like, has all the different layers to it. And to make these actually caramel apple streusel cream cheese cups, I did not make my own caramel in this particular situation, but you are more than happy to go through all that. But I just wanted it to be easy because we made everything else, and then just drizzle some over the top like so. That has a lot of awesome apple flavor. I am glad that I part cooked the apples. Otherwise they might be just a little too crisp. They are still a little crisp because I cut them a little bit larger, but they're perfect in here. I think it just adds perfect texture. That is a fantastic fall treat. So we do have the pork tenderloin still coming up, so don't go anywhere. And I will show you its grand reveal here very shortly. So now we're gonna be making an apples and onions pork tenderloin. It's gonna be so good with a little bit of like a Dijon mustard sauce to it. I've gone ahead and cleaned, and I'm gonna dab the pork tenderloin. I've taken off most of the silver skin. Silver skin on any pork has a little bit of a silver tinge to it, and it doesn't break down when heat's introduced to it, so it just stays tough. We're gonna blot these just to make sure that we can get them good and browned, because we're gonna brown them first before we put them in the oven. We have about a tablespoon heating over medium heat in a oven-proof pan, because once you get it going, you're not gonna wanna change pans. But you're gonna do just a little dab-a-dooya of vegetable oil on these. And you're gonna just rub that all in. And always make sure you have like a specific cutting board for meat so you're not cross-contaminating. So now we're gonna just evenly put some salt over top of these. It is important to season your food in different stages, because when we add these to the hot oil, it's probably gonna take off a lot of the salt, but it still is necessary for the seasoning of the pan because we're gonna introduce other good stuff into that pan. So it still is important. You're not wasting ingredients. So we're gonna take this over to our pan. So now we're just gonna add it into, and we're gonna brown it on all sides. And that's what you wanna hear, is that it's preheated. And then we're gonna go ahead and grab more of that salt, because I left it over here. We're gonna take more of the salt, and we're gonna season the other side. And you're gonna brown these maybe a minute or a minute and a half on each side, give or take. So while we are getting a little bit of brown on our pork tenderloins, so they have great flavor, it's definitely not a step that you want to skip because the oven will not have enough time to do it for you. But I've gone ahead and peeled and cored some apples. So we're just gonna go ahead and slice them marginally thick. Now my apples were kind of big, so I went ahead and did 2, but feel free to add more apple, like 3 if they're more on the medium side. Okay, I'm gonna stop that right there and check on the pork. And now we're just gonna slice up an onion the same way that we did the apple. I usually just chop off just a little bit of this just to help you start getting the skin off of it. And we're gonna do 2 onions. These are sweet onions because we do have the apple, so we want them to go together. Literally, this recipe could not be easier. Now, instead of risking life and limb, just turn your onion when you're getting close and add it to your apples. This has been sizzling away pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and let these rest. Now, by no means are these anywhere fully cooked. And we'll just set them over here for now, and we'll reduce that heat while we continue to work on the apples and getting the onions prepared. Okay, so now we have our pork tenderloins resting, and now to the same pan, we haven't washed it out or anything. We want any of the brown bits that came from the pork to be in there, and we're gonna go ahead and add all of our sliced onions and apples. And just let that cook. Now, if you feel like you need more oil in the pan, you can always add it. Both of these things have a lot of water in them naturally, so I would wait a little bit until you add too much because they have their own moisture. Because we are doing all fall flavors, it's a fresh take. Everything is really coming into its own in its own season. You've got the pork flavors, the apple flavors, and now you have fresh thyme. You could use dried thyme. Oh, why would you? The smell of fresh thyme, it's so easy. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna put it right side up, and you're just gonna go right down and take the leaves off. So easy. And we're gonna do about a couple tablespoons because there's different things we're gonna put this in. If you get a little bit of stem, it's not that big of a deal. They're not tough stems. So now before you start using a little bit of this thyme, I'm going to go ahead and just put Dijon mustard over these. There we go. And then take our little brush, just kind of rub it in. The mustard and the apples together are gonna be so good. And then just flip these and do the same thing. Now the next fun part, you're gonna take some thyme and you're gonna do a little bit of high so you can control it's not all in one spot. And those will be ready as soon as the apples and onions are done sauteing a little bit. Then we can put those back in the pan, and then we're gonna put everything into the oven so it gets nice and lovely and wonderful. And we're gonna add a little bit of the leftover thyme to this just to continue that flavor. Add a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. Almost looks jammy. Okay, now we're gonna add the pork tenderloin back to the onion and apple mixture right on top. And any of those pork juices and mustard and thyme and all that good stuff right in there. And we're gonna put this in the oven. It's preheated to 425 for about 15 to 20 minutes until it reaches an internal temperature of about 145 degrees. Oh, yeah, check those out. You can smell that butter, that thyme, those sweet onions. And remove just the pork tenderloins. And we're gonna take some full and just very loosely temp it. When bringing things out of a hot oven, just make sure that you notify yourself that it did come out of a hot oven, because sometimes we're on autopilot and we touch things that we shouldn't touch. Not that I know this from personal experience in the last 5 minutes or anything, but you might want to do that. So I'm going to add a cup of chicken stock to this, and we're going to reduce the sauce, and then at the end, I know, wait for it because this is going to shock you, we're going to add a tablespoon of butter. Actually, the tablespoon itself might shock you, but we're going to cook this till it reduces by about half. So we had our pork tenderloins resting for about 8 minutes while we made this like almost jammy sauce. It's onions and apples, fresh thyme, some chicken stock, just a smidge of butter as far as lip backs are concerned. And now we're gonna slice up our pork here. And just put that whole thing directly in here. mustard filled juices. So we're just gonna stick those back in and kind of stir it just a smidge. And okay. So I'm just gonna get a couple pieces here along with those apples, and those onions, and that. That looks so good. It smells so good. It almost smells like it has wine in it, but it doesn't. I want to make sure to get some of that. Seriously, that pork is cooked perfectly. It is so tender. And the sweetness of those apples and onions, perfect accoutrement. And the thyme really balances everything out. Doesn't taste herby, just balanced. So definitely I recommend you making this. This is definitely a keeper. And it'd be great for a Sunday dinner as well. So can't go wrong. Fresh time of year of apples. And you've got the wonderful mini caramel apple streusel cream cheese cups. I'll say that 3 times fast. And then you have the pork tenderloin with the apples and onions and that mustard thyme sauce. Just a beautiful thing. So thank you for tuning in today. And hopefully you'll try these recipes and let me know how they turned out for you. And then I will see you next time on Lifestyle with Kim Litvak. And now for the most fun part of when I'm cooking any of these goodies is what I like to call Popeyes. I don't announce myself, I just bring fun, yummy treats like these apple streusel cream cheese cups to my favorite peeps. Hi!
Hi!
I thought I would bring you some goodies today.
Oh, thank you!
Yes, they're apple streusel cream cheese cups.
Amazing! Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you for everything you do. I'm so thankful for you to be my mentor and my friend, and I just want to bring you some good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
We have snacks.
Yay!
They look amazing. Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that's what it's all about, is just surprising people and getting a smile on their face